Hey guys! Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome. I'm doing something totally new on this channel. I started this new hobby, stamp carving, 2 days ago. I guess today is day 3, and I have just been so obsessed and have gotten so many positive feedback and comments on these new stamps, and I have gotten a lot of questions on what am I using, how am I even doing this, what's the process, and I thought I would share what I'm doing with you guys. And I'm obviously new to this as this is day 3, but I feel like I kind of picked up some tips and tricks, and I wanted to share just everything with you guys. So here are some of the stamps I made within the last 2 days, but this is actually the kit that I picked up, and I'll link it down below from Amazon. And it comes with this Speedball carving tool and 2 different tips. That's what I started. This is basically what I've been using for the last couple days. It comes with some tracing paper and this pink block, which you can purchase additional ones online as well. And I'll link everything down below if you are interested in starting this hobby. In addition to the kit, you'll probably need an X-Acto knife. And if you want to mount your stamps onto, and an ink pad, sorry. I've been using this one from Ranger for now. But if you want to mount your stamps to make them a little bit sturdier and easier to manage, I'd recommend picking up some of these wooden pieces. I got these from Michael's, and you can see I mounted the stamp onto this wooden piece using the Gorilla Glue, and it has just been really great and gives it a nice look and feel. Alright, so I've been using this to carve the items that you saw. I did pick up another Speedball carving tool from Amazon, which comes with a bunch of different tips you can change out with. Haven't used it yet, but I am very excited because I think I can do more detailed work with the smaller tip. So the first thing you want to do is draw out your design. This is a post-it pad. I know it looks like the carving pad, but this is just a post-it that I sketched a very simple flower and vase. And now I'm going to take the tracing paper and trace over my image. So something to keep in mind is whatever you draw on your tracing paper, when you lay that on your pad, it's going to be the reversed image. So for most items, it doesn't really matter if it's, I guess, forward or backwards. However, if you're doing lettering or anything like that, you'll want to write out the mirror image. I know it's a little confusing, but so basically I'm just taking a pencil. You'll want a pencil because the ink will transfer over, and you just trace out the design that you sketched out beforehand. So I just happened to do it on a pink post-it, and I'm tracing it on the tracing paper. The next step is you'll want to take the pink block, and as you can see, I used it a bunch already and there's still a lot of space, and you'll want to flip your tracing paper and place it over the pink pad. Initially, I was actually drawing on top, but then I found recently that I can just kind of rub my finger on the image and it transfers pretty nicely. And if you need to touch up any detailed work, you could do that with your pencil. However, I mean, it looked pretty good. I got all the details out, but like I said, you could trace on top if it wasn't imprinting as well. Maybe it depends on the kind of pencil you're using. So I'm here using my the thinner side of the Speedball tip, but I'll kind of showing you how you can change it out. Be very careful. The very top is the cutting edge, so you want to make sure you're not touching the very top part, but the sides are fairly safe. So I'm showing you not to touch the top part because you can definitely cut yourself. And on the handle, there's kind of one side that has a deeper slot, and that's where you slide your piece in. All right, so I guess this is the part everyone kind of wants to see, the carving part. So I found that picking the pink pad up for me is a little bit easier to control. I tried to zoom in here a little bit for you guys. However, I'm not sure if it's maybe safer to lay it on the table, but for me, my chair didn't go all the way up, so I was like, oh, it's a little bit easier for me to see if I lift it just slightly. And everywhere that I read online says that you want to carve away from yourself to avoid any injuries. As you can see, I'm carving towards myself. Fingers crossed, I've been very lucky so far to not have any injuries. However, I would highly recommend carving away and just taking the extra time to move your piece around. I learned that doing kind of rounded edges is a little bit trickier. For example, if you were to do like a perfect circle, and some of the tips that I read about perfect circles is that you'll want to move the block versus your instrument, the carving tool itself. So here I am kind of manipulating my pink block and sort of trying to find the best way to add the details in. So one of the things I found just a little challenging when I first started doing this 2 days ago was trying to figure out what parts to carve out and what parts to leave, because it's a little counterintuitive in that the pieces that you carve away will not ink on your will not show up as the ink part on your image. So for example, I like to start out just in the very beginning to carve around my image, just so you know for sure you're going to cut around the whole thing. So that one's easy. It's kind of like a no-brainer piece. And then after that, you kind of have to think, okay, am I going to be leaving pieces behind, and those pieces will end up being dark or inked, versus the pieces that you cut out will be not inked. So I started to think, okay, if I want to leave, for example, in this piece, I decided I'm going to leave the vase as an all black vase, say, or I want it to be able to be inked and show up completely. And that little highlight that I drew, I want that to be kind of like a negative space. So if that's the case, you want to outline kind of around the vase and leave the vase as is. And then all you'll do is carve out the negative space for the highlight, if that makes sense. And for me, I wanted the petals of the flower to have some negative space inside the petal. So in that case, I'm leaving the outline behind and carving away the interior of the flower. If hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, I guess you can kind of watch how I'm doing it, and it'll sort of make sense when I ink it at the end. I was thinking about fast forwarding this video to kind of get through this part with you guys, but then I think it's also important to see kind of the speed at which I'm carving. I know some people mentioned that, oh, you're doing this really fast. I don't know if it's necessarily really fast. I am still trying to take my time on it, but it actually doesn't take that long, because I think my images are fairly small. I think if I were doing like a much larger piece, that would take a really, really long time. And I think these smaller pieces hold my attention a bit more. So here I am, you can see carving away just that highlight in the vase, but leaving the rest behind. So that'll mean that the highlight will be a negative space and not have ink on it. And the vase itself will be all black, or depending on the ink color that I'm using. And like I said earlier, I wanted to have the petals have negative space on the inside. So here I am basically leaving the pencil outline behind for the petals, but removing the interior aspects, if that makes sense. I apologize that I'm half off camera here. After I zoomed in, it was a little bit hard because I'm like focusing on the petals and not so much where the lens is, but hopefully you guys can still kind of see what I'm doing. So I'm leaving the pencil marks behind and carving out the interior aspects of the petals so that the outline of the petals show up on the paper. The vase is pretty straightforward. I just had to go around it, leaving the vase as the area that's going to be inked, and then I just carved out the highlight. So here I am just kind of taking my time. So I noticed you want to make sure you're, specifically if you're carving out the interior aspects of a design, you want to make sure you're taking your time around the outline, because I find that the images look a lot cleaner when the outline is kind of like a uniform width, the outline being the pencil mark. So just take your time on this part. There's no need to rush. So yeah, here I am just kind of carving away. And in this video, I'm only basically using this thinner edged tip on the carving tool. However, the set does come with a thicker edge, and so this was a smaller piece, it didn't require it. But if I were, say, doing one of the girls that I've been carving out for the hair pieces, I've been using that larger chisel tip. But since I got my set of more tips today, I can't wait to make more designs. I'll be posting in the group, of course. Thank you guys so much for the feedback. It's just been so like positive and so exciting, and I'm just so happy I can share this new hobby of mine with all of you guys. So for the most part, the petals itself are carved out. I'm just cleaning out the part in between the petals because I don't want that to show up on my final product. And so I'm just kind of like making sure everything's looking nice, brushing away any of the I guess shavings. Oh yes, and the mat I'm using is a mat I got from Michaels. They also sell these on Amazon. I'll link it down below, but it allows you to use like a knife cutting tool and not pierce through. So if you're cutting on your table or anything that's kind of slightly softer material, I would highly recommend getting one of these mats because you can kind of press all the way down with an X-Acto knife and not worry that you're destroying your piece of furniture. I was pretty amazed that it doesn't leave any marks on the mat whatsoever, so it's like totally blade proof. So this part you definitely want to be careful with because I feel like I've been very lucky so far because I'm cutting towards myself. I have a finger out to kind of like leverage, but if you slip, you can very easily cut your fingers. So be very careful here. So what I'm doing is I'm now cutting around the entire image, and basically if you had outlined a little bit thicker around your image, it might be easier to cut around the image at the end because you don't have to worry about leaving out some of the edges. However, you can always go back and trim your piece, which I do at the end here, so not to worry so much there. But this isn't fast forwarded or slowed down at all, so you can see real time how quickly I'm cutting or how slowly I'm cutting. I do try and slow down at this part because I know, like you can see my fingers there, if I slip, oh, that's going to be a big issue. So fingers crossed, everyone, please be safe while using your X-Acto knife. And so I'm trying to remove like the extra pieces so I can see where I need to continue cutting. So I'm almost done here. Just have to be a little bit careful around the edges of the flower. But again, if you say use your larger chisel tip and shaved off more around your image, you don't have to necessarily X-Acto knife so close to your image like I am. I do kind of like how it looks on the final product when I glue it onto the wooden piece if I cut close to the image, so I think I might continue to do that just because I like how it looks at the end. And especially if you guys, I know a lot of you have asked if I'm selling. I still think I'm pretty new, but eventually if I do sell, I think, yeah, I'll continue to cut around because I think it looks a little bit nicer. So here I am doing another dangerous move, using the X-Acto knife to very, very gently shave off any extra pieces that might imprint on my final product. So just carefully doing that. I'm just doing it so gently here, so it looks dangerous, but if you go very gently, I think it's okay. My day job, I am a dentist, so I use my hands a lot to carve and I guess shape teeth, so I'm really comfortable kind of working with sharp instruments, but I would still exercise precaution when using any of these tools. Please everyone be safe, be careful, it can be dangerous. So here I am using these little discs, which I love. It's a pack of 6 for like $1.99 at Michael's. I'm sure Amazon has it too. If I can find it, I'll link it. And what I'm going to do is actually, if you could score the back before you add glue, it's a little bit better so the glue seeps in. But I didn't do it on the video, but just stick it right onto your wooden piece and it gives you a nice handle. So I recommend doing this before testing out your image because it's a little bit easier to stamp and hold your stamp versus just holding the rubber piece itself. And so this Gorilla Glue said it takes 10 seconds to dry, so I'm giving that a little bit of time. And I'm using this little book that I got from the Mito in a Box subscription set that they sent me. And yeah, I figured I'm gonna collect or stamp all the different stamps that I make into this book to kind of collect and see what I've been doing. So this part to me is one of the most important parts, is to test it on the ink pad. So not necessarily to stamp it first, but just to see where the ink is going to show up. It's a really good tool to see where your mistakes are. So I just pressed it into the ink and I can see that there are some pieces that shouldn't be inked. And that's where I'm going to go back in with my tool and kind of carve them out. This part is a pretty important step, I think, because it allows you to see what belongs, what doesn't belong, and add in those final details to make your stamp as perfect or imperfect that you want it to be. And in this case, you know, sometimes I think having like a dot here or there is kind of cute, but for this flower, I was like, you know, it looks pretty clean. Let me clean it up a bit. And so as you can see, the vase itself, because I didn't carve anything in it aside from the highlight, it is completely dark and it picked up all of the ink. And I noticed from kind of doing this for the 2 days that the images or stamps look cooler when there's like some fully shaded areas and some carved out areas. I think the contrast looks really nice in your bullet journal or when you stamp it out. So here I am just like cleaning up any of the excess dots, trying to make it, as perfect as I can for the video. And yeah, then definitely ink it again before you stamp it into your book, because you want to make sure it picks up all the right spots, and you can double check and looking pretty good. So yeah, with this wooden piece at the back, it allows you to press firmly on all sides, and there you go. So what I think is kind of cool, and what I'll probably do for my own bullet journal, is I got some craft paper, ripped it up, and I think I'm gonna like stamp onto the craft paper and like use washi tape or glue dots and stick it into my journal. I think it looks really cool that way. Isn't that like really neat? But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this video and found it informative. Subscribe and thumbs up. Follow me on Instagram if you want to see more. I think I'll likely be doing more carvings in the near future, so stay tuned. Thanks for the ideas on what to carve next. Leave them down below if you have any suggestions. Hope to see you guys in my next video. Thank you.